Welcome to episode 3 of Eat, Drink, Art, a podcast series where we speak to creative personalities from Malaysia, Asia, and the world. In today's episode, we'll be speaking to two people, Malaysian theatre writer and director and activist Jo Kukathas, alongside her friend, theatre producer Tan Cher Kian. The both of them will be organizing a festival. The festival is called What the Elders Left Us. This festival is very important because it celebrates the lives and the works of playwrights and theatre actors and theatre directors from the 1960s in Malaysia. Now, the 1960s in Malaysia was a very interesting time because it was just after independence, and it was a time when Malaysia was trying to figure out its place on the global stage. So a lot of the performing art works, and also of course the playwrights and the scripts and everything that were produced at that time, were very experimental in nature. So to understand what the vibe was like and the sort of experimentations that took place at that time, I had the opportunity to speak to both Jo and Cher Kian to understand better a little bit about the festival and also living and producing plays at that time. So let's go in and find out more.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Sukhdev, as well, for inviting us to be on your show. I'm Jo Kukathas. I'm the artistic director of the Instant Café Theatre company.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again, Sukhdev, for this. I'm CK, Tan Cher Kian. I'm a producer for Instant Café Theatre.
Thank you so much for joining me today for this podcast episode, Cher Kian and Jo. I'm super excited to be talking to both of y'all, especially about your upcoming festival, which is titled "What the Elders Left Us," right? And it's a very interesting title. Perhaps, Jo, maybe we can start off with you sharing a little bit about what the title means and how you came about with the festival's name, and what does it mean to you personally?
Well, actually, this title was CK's title. He came out with the title, What the Elders Left Us. And I agree, it's a beautifully poetic title. I think it came about because we were thinking about, well, what's the meaning of theatre? Why do we do theatre? Why do we make art? What's the purpose of art? And I think art is something which helps us to understand, helps us transcend the day-to-day aspects of life. And we began to think about the artists of the 1960s who were there creating art post-independence and were kind of creating a brave new world. So we began to think, well, they were our elders. What did they leave us? But also to ask of them, what did they feel was left to them? Because they were trying to create their own Malaysian theatre. Who were they looking at? They were looking at their masters as well, their elders, people from Wayang, people from the West, from the East, from the North, from the South. And our elders come from everywhere because we have great migration patterns here. So we want to look at the elders, to honor them, but also to ask, what are they leaving us? On a non-material plane.
Interesting. And this is something I think a lot of our listeners and readers would probably also be very curious to know, like, why the focus on the 60s? Why not the 70s or the 80s? Any reason why the 60s?
Well, that will come later. 70s and 80s will come later. But we were interested in the post-independence. We decided to say 60s rather than 50s because, of course, our movement towards independence took some time. We didn't just become independent in 1957. There was federation later. There was separation. There was confrontasi, all during the 60s, as we were trying to figure out who we were. And I think the artists of the time were also trying to figure out, well, what is this new country? I mean, in some ways, an old country, meaning that we had all been part of this land for a long time, but now being formalized into a new place, a new nation. Yes.
Yes, and researching about the 60s, right, Jo and Cher Kian, I can't help but actually, identify parallels to that time, right? It was a very, very turbulent time. This was a time when Malaysia was just formed, and there was so many things happening. Singapore merged with Malaysia, and then they leave Malaysia, and then there was this whole Cold War and the Vietnam War. Just for context sake, right, Cher Kian and Jo, how old were both of y'all? And I'm just curious because in this day and age, the youngsters nowadays, we get our news from the digital, online smartphones. I'm pretty sure you got your news and everything from your, your older generation talking about it in coffee shops. Maybe you were listening to television. What was the vibe like? What was the experience like? Like listening in to all of this, turbulent moments taking place.
Well, of course, CK and I are completely different generations. I was born in 62. CK was born in
79.
79.
Okay.
So there's a big difference between us in terms of age. So I was born in the 60s. And I was born into a theatre family in a way, in that my father was a playwright, he was an actor. Our house was always filled with theatre people. And but my father also worked for RTM. Before that, he worked for the Malayan Film Unit. So our house is a very newsy place. Radio people, TV people, newscasters. So I guess, but also theatre people. So as a child, me and my sisters and my cousins, we had our own little theatre company, copying what the adults did. But CK, I think, is a completely different generation and how he got his news, and also because, of course, he's Sabahan, so which again is a different way of getting information altogether as well.
Yeah, so technically, I think I can say I grew up in 80s because I was born 79. So 60s to me, I was not born in that era, but I mean, now when I look back at it, actually whatever happened in 60s actually affected my generation.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why I think for me and for us, when we discuss about this, it's not just looking about 60s and people who are in that era, but sometimes we forgot whatever that comes after, like me and the current generation now. So definitely we are affected by it. So when we are working on this, when I start researching, so we call this researching festival because for me, I'm not living in that era. So for me, it's a lot of researching, and there are a lot of discoveries. So we got very excited with this, and I think everyone, especially now, they want to know what happened before. They are interested in this. So that's why we actually feel that it's important to have this excavation of the elders. And like Joe said just now, it's not just one generation. It can be the elders of our elders. So it can go very far behind. But during my time, Sabah is quite late in a lot of stuff. Even newspaper come sometimes a day later. But one thing I can say is that I thought there are a lot of assumptions I have going into this festival and organizing and working on this, but like the discovery actually proves that a lot of our my assumption especially, are so wrong. And I personally very excited about this. So sometimes it's just not about what we experienced that time. During my era when I was young, there's limitation. But now when we do this excavation, we find a lot of interesting things, breaking our assumptions and changing our perspective on things, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think, the discovery of our very socialist past, I think that the artists of the 60s were very interested in telling stories with a very strong social conscience. They were interested in the poor, interested in the marginalized, but also interested in very existential questions. I mean, one of the first plays that we're looking at is Syed Alwi's play Going North, which is set in a railway station in the middle of nowhere. Around them is the communist insurgency. Emergency is happening, the sense of danger, the sense of urgency, but also the sense of, as a country, where are we going? Where are we on our way somewhere? Or are we going to be like, a railway station platform is a very interesting space, right? Because you're not anywhere, you're nowhere and somewhere at the same time, but it's about the journey. And I think this whole festival, actually, for both CK and me, hasn't been about a journey. And that's why we keep on saying it's a research festival, it's a remembering festival, it's a reimagining festival. And what we want the audience to do is kind of do that as well. It's not so much a presentation festival. We are hoping people will go and say, oh, I want to find out more. Let me go and speak to my parents, my grandparents, my uncle, my aunt. Let me go and
do more research.
Research as well. Yeah.
Speaking of research, right, I'm just curious, how many plays and how many playwrights did both of y'all, researched for this festival?
Well, we've so far we've collected, or rather CK has collected, he's done a lot of this work. He's managed to put together an archive of 70
plus at
70
this moment.
plays.
Yeah. A lot of help from a lot of our collaborators as
Mm.
well, and people who willingly, send us the scripts, typewritten one. Some people pass them old collection because some of these scripts are not published. That's the challenge actually. But in terms of playwrights, I think Jo read almost all of them. There are many.
Yeah. I mean, and what we're hoping this festival as well is that maybe people will know that we're trying to create an archive. So you asked earlier why the 60s. Well, we hope later there'll be the 70s and the 80s, but we wanted to start with an archive of things from the 60s. So if people have scripts from the 60s or photographs or newspaper articles, any material related to the arts of the 1960s, we want to put them together in an archive so that next time people don't have to go through what we've gone through the last 1 year trying to gather this material. So we want to make it a kind of open source project, and people can contribute to this open source as well. And I think get to know our history, because it's very exciting. I think knowing about the past, it really tells you something about where you are now. And maybe where we're headed, north, south, east, or west, not sure. We're definitely all on a railway platform somewhere.
Very, very symbolic. And the festival also centers on the Kadazan Dusun philosophy as well, right? Kigatang, Tungkus. Any reason why the choice of using this philosophy for the festival? And what does the term mean? Maybe this is something for our listeners who are not familiar.
Well, again, this was something in a conversation I was having with CK. He came up with this and said, actually, again, Sabahan said, well, actually, there's this concept in Kadazan Dusun language. And so I'll get him to explain this.
Yeah, I speak to some of my friends who are actually lecturers in UMS, and then we talk about this festival, about elders. And then she shared with me that, this concept of Tungkus, especially. Basically, it's talking, Tungkus is actually heritage. But the heritage that something that you pass on to the different generation, but it's not necessarily like what we always assume is like material stuff or property. Right. So, and this concept is important because what you pass on to the next generation has to be for the well-being of us, right, for your life. So it's always related to wisdom, to knowledge, so in the spiritual sense of way. So I think this is what we are finding for this festival. We need to focus or pay a little bit more attention to that rather than just material property and all this too physical stuff that I think we should not depend too much. Yeah.
I think one of the things that we're thinking about is that, what is the purpose of art and why do we want and need art, right? Because we are more than just capitalist beings. We need more than just material things to be happy. And our world has become increasingly materialistic, but I kind of feel that maybe right now we are questioning this capitalist system that we live in. And people are beginning to think more about what is important about the earth, about the planet, about nature, our spiritual needs, not just our material needs. Of course, I think we're being fought against on every side by people trying to sell us things all the time. So we really want to have a festival where we're saying, well, what makes us human? What makes us happy? It's not things. It's how we live our life, how we want to be with other people, how we share our stories with each other, how we try to understand each other. And through arts, we do have this kind of more space, maybe, to think about these things. So I think we felt that this Kadazan Dusun concept was very helpful for us to think about this, about the importance of art. Yeah. And therefore the importance of the artists who came before us, all who had something to say to us, or something they left to us, but now maybe we need to listen to that. And maybe just like on a very personal level, one of the things that my father said to me, my father was an artist in his early life. He was in theatre, he was a writer, and then later he was in the Foreign Service, became a diplomat, then he became a journalist, he wrote about politics all the time. And he was very happy when I started Instant Café and said to me, he was very happy I was doing theatre. But of course I was doing a lot of political satire. And he said to me, don't make the same mistake I made. Don't give your life to politics. more things in life. There's other kinds of art. And I think I realized I didn't listen to him. So now I'm trying to listen to what he said and what he left me with this idea that there's more ways to create art than to make art that's just overtly political. There's also ways of saying things which are important for our humanity, and not leaving aside politics. The political is in everything.
Yes.
But don't do it to the detriment of your own spirit.
I'm really glad that this festival is taking place, Jo and Cher Kian, because especially when you talk to the younger generation, even my generation, of course, there is this sort of like they don't understand what the elders have gone through. And there's always this conflict between the generations, right? So one thing I'm really excited to actually find out is what are the similarities that the older generation, especially the older writers and artists and playwrights, what were the similarities that they have experienced with what I'm experiencing currently? And just to mention, I think this is something I was reading of Cher Kian's document that he shared. Some of them playwrights and personalities that y'all have actually researched is Lee Joo For. There's also Jimmy Boyle. There's also Tiger of Luz in community fame. That's really interesting. And these are all names that the younger generation, we are not familiar with these names. But just to circle back to what Cher Kian was mentioning about research, were there any particular stories or anything that especially moved you during your research moments?
Yeah, you're right. I think our understanding or knowledge of the era or in a bigger terms, our history is quite limited. And when we research about the 60s, personally for me, I found, names like Usman Awang, Syed Awi, they are quite out there. But because we are researching this, we also find a lot of names like you mentioned just now, like Lee Joo For, Patrick Yeo, or even to me, myself, like Edward Dorrell is new to me. So I think there's space for a lot of interesting discoveries. So when like for example, Lee Joo For, his life is so fascinating and he's a multifaceted artist. He's not just a playwright, he's also a very successful painter. And in fact, a lot of people know him as painter than playwrights. Then for me, this is interesting, right? So it's all this little stuff that I think is worth highlighting. It might be forgotten or people are not being told. So we want to use this as a chance to share this with our audience. That's what I find fruitful for me.
Yeah, but the plays are so varied. I don't think I can say there's one kind of play, but what I've noticed in a lot of them is there's a lot of plays which are set in poorer neighborhoods, right? So, in the 1960s in the UK, there was a theatre revolution because you had a play called Look Back in Anger. And it was written by John Osborne. And when the curtain opens, it's a woman on stage at an ironing board. And people were like, what? I don't go to the theatre to see myself doing the ironing, right? Because people were used to watching, Oscar Wilde, Noel Coward, that kind of play. So this was the play, all right, of the angry young men, they call them. So, and for me, it's interesting that the playwright Patrick Yeo, his play opens with a woman on stage doing the laundry as well, doing the ironing. But she's got an old Malaysian iron, one of those charcoal irons, which is really heavy, and it's very hard to iron. Then her husband comes in. Her husband is a professional beggar, so he hasn't made much money that day. So they're trying to eke out a living in downtown KL. They managed to still scrape together enough money to send one son to study in the UK. So for me, this play was written in the 1960s, but we still have that situation here. A hawker who is working day and night, making char kway teow while his son is studying by kerosene lamp to make money to send one child to study somewhere else. The plight of the poor hasn't changed that much, really. It's just the urban setting has shifted. But also, I think for the Malaysian audience to go to a piece of theatre, and rather than seeing what they've been seeing for decades, which is more kind of drawing room plays, you see a woman on stage with an ironing board. I thought that was very interesting. Or you bring up The Tiger is Loose in the Community. It starts with a song, right? It's not a musical, but it starts with a song. A tiger's loose in our community. He is terrorizing all society. He prowls along our streets at night. He growls and hungers for a fight. There's no use pretending. Everyone in town is trembling. Oh, brother, what a mess we're in. And it starts with that, and then the two gangsters come in and they go, tiger, tiger. Who will fight the tiger? Tiger, tiger. Who will catch the tiger? Who will capture him and lock him up? Tiger, tiger, tiger. Tiger's the name of their gang leader. But everybody else is there gambling, playing mahjong, playing cards. Hurry up, put the money down. Never mind that fellow, he sings like a frog. Brother, come, brother, come. Wake up already. Come, don't waste time. Hey, you cheat, you're cheating me. You're cheating. No, I'm not cheating. I smash your face. Yeah. So it goes into this world, right? And for me, it's very exciting to see that world being put on stage. And it starting with this kind of really gang member song. And in fact, if you look at the play script, he brought the whole musical score further.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh wow! He did a musical score. Wow.
Yeah.
And more interestingly is when we share this like a couple of days ago with a university student, we get them to read, and then some of them were so surprised to see there's a musical score as much as we were. And when they start to read it, I mean, initially I was like, oh, will they be able to resonate with it? And how do they interpret it? But when they read it, I think to answer your question, is there any parallel or similarities? Definitely there are. And I feel that they also can relate in a way. It's just that before that, maybe they were not given a chance due to access and everything. So yeah, it's definitely exciting. And I think they will be, I mean, at least from that day, they have a lot of questions, of course. And that's the reason we want to do this, right? There's an element of imagining. So now, even though the play or the work is actually in 60s, but when we present this festival, we really hope our audience, not only just young generation, I think even my generation also, I think we need to reimagining stuff, for the future. Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of, I'm seeing a lot of young people nowadays wanting to do cosplay. Right, they want to dress up in as people in the 50s or 60s, and I think that's one way to reimagine yourself, right? But another way to reimagine is to read the plays that people wrote, read the novels people wrote, read the short stories, read the poems, listen to the music, and maybe that gives you a deeper sense or a different sense of the time rather than just fashion, because why is that fashion that way?
Yes.
The fashion is connected to the ideas, right? And the 60s, not just in Malaysia, globally, was a very, a rebellious time, right? Everybody was sort of trying to find their place in the sun in some ways. The civil rights movement in America, with rights for the disenfranchised Black people of America, the sense of gaining independence from colonialists, and then children feeling their independence from their families. All these things were, that rebellious time was very important. It was a time for asking questions.
Yeah.
And I think people always have questions.
I think this is, if you compare the 60s even now, it's almost the same. It's just that now it's it's more digital than analog, right? As opposed to on the ground. So I think this is where this festival, brings people from their digital lives and to the ground. And I think this is something probably our readers and also our listeners will be very curious to know what can they expect from the festival, Jo? And I think this is more for the format, like, would there be like stage readings or would there be theater productions? How would the festival be like? What can they expect?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that question. It's an important one. So it's quite varied, right? So, for example, the very first event is on this Sunday, and it'll be at klpac. And the idea was to have a conversation with Farida American, because Farida, of course, was a much loved actor in the 1960s, still a much loved actor, but in the 1960s, a lot of plays were written with, I think, her in mind, right? So she played a lot of the iconic female characters of the time. So we are going to be doing play readings from 4 different plays, all of which had her as the starring, as the lead female role. But also we will be we've chosen plays which tell us a bit about that time. One of them is set, as I said, in that railway station platform, waiting for the train, but they find out the train has been bombed by some communist insurgents. In another play, there's a woman waiting at home. Her husband was a policeman during the communist emergency. Now he's a lawyer, a very successful lawyer, and they've got news that one of the communists that her husband put away in jail has now been released. So she's kind of feeling a little bit nervous as to this happening. So this is the era that we're talking about. But at the same time, we have two plays. One was originally a Bangsawan play that was then turned into a radio play that was then turned into a contemporary play, contemporary in the 1960s. But it's a love story about two people who are from, well, they're both poor, but one of them has her mother wants her to marry a rich man, and the rich man is very powerful. So then what will happen? What do you do when confronted by the reality of what you want compared to the reality of your parents' social standing, right? So what kind of choice do you make in such a situation? And actually both, the other play, Uda Dandara, is also a very similar play, a place where people are trying to be happy, but there are other people who exploit them for everything. Which is, for me, this is, all the tech bros. The tech bros have basically, they are the iron buckles of today. We're all beholden. We're all their miners, right? Excavating. That before we were farmers, now we are their data rats. But really, they are the ones controlling our lives, and we sing happily and get on social media, but actually being in servitude to them. Some people are beginning to say, well, hold on, is that a kind of slavery? Because maybe you're not as in charge of your life as you think you are.
Yeah.
So we can re-examine these plays to ask us these questions about who we are now. I feel, yeah. So I haven't answered your question, but your question was the different kind of events. So that's the one with Farida this Saturday.
Yes,
this Sunday. Sorry. Next Saturday, there is a interactive theatre performance at klpac. Again, because it's a train station, the train stations featured very strongly in the 1960s plays because it was a metaphor for where are we going. Yeah. And so we're doing an interactive piece of theatre directed by Rosdin Subo, where the audience will be coming along and they will encounter three characters from three plays from the 60s. But a new play will be created with us, the audience, with these characters. And it's a processional piece of theatre. So it'll be a parade theatre. We'll be moving from one place to another on a journey together. So that's that weekend. The next weekend at DPAC, we will be having things like talks. So we'll have like a talk about that era, the romance of that era by Edin Khoo. We have people like Eleanor Grono, who's coming to talk about how you tell stories not just through words on a page, but through tattoos, through beads, through instruments. She's a Sabahan, and she will talk about kind of the more native experience of how to tell stories and how stories are passed down. We will have reimagining. So we have a couple of people who have been doing research into their fathers and their communist socialist background and their detention and their interest in theatre, and they will be creating a new piece of theatre which has a very long title, but the title is about what was taken from the father's drawer, right? We will be having music sessions, so we have people like Paul Augustine from Penang House of Music, who along with Daryl Gold will be doing a listening party where we will listen to music from that era and try to understand the different kinds of music, from popular music to propaganda music to counter-propaganda music to just fun music, underground music, and we'll get a chance to listen to them and then ask some questions about them as well. We'll be listening to the music of Jimmy Boyle, who was honestly an incredible musician. In fact, a few days ago, I went to listen to a concert at the DFP, and they played one of his pieces, and I'm like, how was somebody back then writing such incredible music like this? And a lot of people don't know Jimmy Boyle, and yet he wrote 42 school anthems.
Wow.
He wrote so much music. So I think his music is definitely worth us listening to, and maybe thinking about people sampling them, resampling them as well. We'll be hearing from people like Umesh Shetty and Shankar Kandasamy about the dancer Gopal Shetty, the influence of him, his work and life on their work and their life. Right? So these are the different kinds of programs that we can expect.
Yeah, we also have a work that is going to take one of the radio drama, because in the 60s, radio drama is a big thing. But the artist collaborator is going to kind of like reimagining it for this moment and try to do something about it as well. Yeah, that's from Musmawang.
Yeah, because again, back then we listened to a lot of radio dramas, so we want the audience not to just come and see something, but what it is to just listen to something. So we'll have not just the text, but we'll have all the sound effects. So they will recreate on stage a modern, they'll recreate a radio drama.
Yeah.
I love it.
Looking at things like the short stories from that era, especially maybe
a little bit interesting how progressive is our society that time during the 60s. Yeah, with different team and usual Amir Muhammad style. A lot of discoveries actually.
Yes.
About gender, for example.
Yes.
But even like things, even like people like playwrights like Usman Awang. I mean, in Usman Awang's play Uda Dandara, they get married. They say they're going to get married because basically they know they have to flee the village, so they marry each other unofficially, so they be together that night. But it's not a marriage in the way that we would consider a marriage today. But they said, well, we love each other. Now we swear our love to each other, and then
What else?
So the mores of the time were quite different, right? I think nowadays we're quite conservative about how we look at gender, how we look at race, class.
That's right.
So we're trying to get a glimpse into
the work and the artists,
what they think
about, their imagination. Yeah.
I love the fact that the festival is very diverse. There's going to be lectures, stage readings, listening parties, even processions. So, for readers who are...
We're trying to actually with everything everybody does, we've said to all of them, find something performative. So even though Edin will be talking, his talk will be preceded by a performance by an Awang Batil. So we're trying to find something performative in every single part of what we do.
Nice. And Jo, just for people who are interested to attend these events, how can they find out the dates and time? Like, what website do they go to get all this info?
First of all, the event is free.
Okay.
All of them needs to be registered. There will be registration. So it helps us to actually manage a crowd and everything. So to get, I think later we can share it with you, but you can check out in CloudJoy under what the elders left us. So from now on, we will actually announce all the programs one by one when it's closer to the date. But in terms of the dates, the most current one is this Sunday on the 12th, Independent Woman, the talk by Jo and Farida, and also readings of the characters in klpac.
And some of the actors who are coming for the readings include Sharifah Amani, Farah Rani, Anne James, Mia Sarah Shauki, Sufyan Berdaus, Gregory Z. So, these are lovely Karen Swami Pillai. So it's quite a nice variety of actors who will be coming to do the readings as well.
Wonderful. And sorry, Chekin,
no. I mean, then after that is the procession theater that Jo is talking about. And then after that, the main festival, there will be 3 days from the 31st of October until the 2nd of November in DPAC. And then we will have satellite events the weekend after that, which is a talk by senior curator from National Gallery Singapore, Adele Tan. The event will be in Ilham, is our collaboration, where Adele will actually delve into the artwork of Lee Joo For, whereas we will actually present and also get some readings done of his work, some absurdist theatre work, right? And then on the 9th, which is on the Sunday, we are having a collaboration with Malaysian Design Archive. It's going to be reading and 60s music and reading frenzy. So we hope to have a full day of music and reading. Yeah.
And everybody's invited to come
Yes.
and read. So just you can come to be a reader or you can come in to be a listener.
Yeah.
Either one is good. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think what I will do is, Jo and Cher Kian, I will get all the details, the links to the tickets and stuff, and of course the RSVP links, and I will put it in the description of this podcast so that our listeners and readers can also check out. And also, I think for our listeners, they can also read the Eccentrica article as well,
Yes.
which will have all the details that you need to look for all the programs. I think we have come to the final part of the podcast, Jo and Cher Kian. I think one final question is, if there is one emotion or reflection, you hope festival goers who attend this festival walk away with, what would it be?
One emotion, you say?
Yeah.
Emotional reflection that you hope that they can take back home after attending this festival.
Emotion. That's a difficult question. I guess I just want people to I can't think of one word. It really goes back to the idea of researching, remembering, and reimagining. Because I think, and maybe the emotion is to be hopeful. Be hopeful. We look back at the past in order to discover, so we can have some hope for the future.
Yeah.
We don't think that we are alone and that our history begins with us. We have a rich and varied history, and I think we must never forget that. We mustn't think we don't have it. We are not, and we just, I don't want to make any big claims for us. We're just also just trying to do our part in sharing and encouraging people to participate and partake of some of that rich past. A repast.
Repast. I love it. It's really nice. Repast.
For me,
what about you?
I think I hope they will be excited with our discoveries, no matter big, small, many, one, or how no matter how small it is, because I think that will spark something, no matter how small it is. Maybe not now, maybe not immediate, but when you get to actually experience this with a group of like-minded, or even sometimes all the creative people or the people who wants to understand a lot of history, I think something will come out. Maybe not immediate, but they might realize it. I don't know how long, but and hopefully they will do something about it, continue researching and continue the effort, I guess.
Actually, I completely agree. I think that this festival is maybe taking place in these few days, but it isn't about that. It isn't about these few days of the festival. It is about hoping that we can just continue to build this research, this resource for people. We're really hoping that people will come to us and say, oh, we've got this.
Yes.
And we really hope that then people will start to use these as an opportunity to reimagine more work. And maybe we can be helpful in providing some of the resource material to other people, so that, we are, as members of the arts community, we just want to become more available and make things more available to anybody who might be interested in creating new work.
Wonderful. I really hope that, I think for me, especially when I attend the festival, I mostly want to relate with the older artists and playwrights. And at the same time, I also want to get inspired as well. I want to see how they wrote their plays and what was the feel of that time, that period. and at the same time sort of like relate with the challenges that they face, and then sort of reflect and also understand how similar we are, although how far the years have gone, I mean, in terms of the generation gap. But I think at the end of the day, the challenges that we have faced with our forefathers, the elders, has been the same. It's just that it has sort of taken a different version or a different variety. And so thank you so much, Cher Kian and Jo, for organizing this festival. Super excited to experience what the elders left us. And I think what we'll do is, for our listeners, all the information will be in the description, and also in our article as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Actually, can we just talk about one more thing?
Yes, please.
Which is that, one of the things that we wanted to do is also encourage people to have responses to this, so that if they come in, if they read the plays, to write about the plays that they've read. So the resource is available to anybody, every member of the public. They don't, not artist, non-artist, audience member, theatre goer, art lover, and then write a response. And as you know, we've offered a little cash prize for people who write for us the most interesting or the most fascinating review of or response to one of the works. And again, we're just doing this so that people read and reflect.
Oh yeah, just one question, additional question. Just so sorry, because it's good that you mentioned this. I'm guessing that some of these plays will also be available digitally as well. Is that correct? Or would it be available as a book or something? How would that go?
A lot of them actually are published. Those published ones, we managed to find it from the libraries. So from the libraries, we managed to do some scanning of the books and we share it. Some are not published, and we actually scan the original typewritten format, and our effort is now trying to convert it into typewritten format, so it can be more reader friendly and also subsequent use. But they are all available for people who want to access them. Yeah.
In digital form.
Yeah, in digital form. Yeah.
Okay. And will it be like on Instant Café's website, or will it be?
We actually, at the moment, we store it in Google Drive.
Okay.
So the link is freely available. But yeah, this is part of our plan also. In the future, we would like to archive them properly, getting more professional help and advice on how to do that and how to make it a proper archival source for everybody who wants to use it. Yeah.
But we can share that link with you, and then you
Yes.
can post it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, and we will also put it in the description as well, so that our readers can check out the plays.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jo and Cher Kian. This has been such a wonderful, wonderful chat. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm so excited to experience what the elders left us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening and watching this episode of Eat, Drink, Art. If you know of any creative people that we should interview, please do send them our way. At the same time, if you're an arts and culture brand and you're looking to publicize your brand and also market your brand, we are always open to collaborations. Again, you can always reach out to us at editors@excentrica.com. I repeat, editors@excentrica.com. I will also leave our email address in the description so that you can actually reach out to us very easily. Thank you so much once again for listening and watching this episode. I will see you in the next one.